Welcome to Hollywood World. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the glamorous yet dark side of classic cinema. The 15 Golden Age actresses who were heavy smokers. These women defined style, beauty, and talent during Hollywood's most iconic era, the 1930s to the 1960s. But behind the charm and charisma, many of them battled an addiction that was not only fashionable at the time, but also deadly in the long run: cigarette smoking. 1. Marlene Dietrich. When it comes to seductive, confident screen goddesses, Marlene Dietrich stands in a league of her own. Her androgynous style and commanding presence often included, you guessed it, a cigarette. That Dietrich's image was built around sensual rebellion. She was often photographed with a cigarette dangling from her lips, challenging gender norms and exuding sophistication. Unfortunately, she was also a lifelong smoker, and her health paid the price. In later years, she suffered from various ailments linked to her smoking, but her legacy as a fearless icon of old Hollywood remains untouched. 2. Lana Turner. The sweater girl of the 1940s, Lana Turner became a Hollywood sex symbol at a young age. She was glamorous, scandalous, and, like many of her peers, addicted to smoking. Lana's image was often tied to cigarettes. They enhanced her femme fatale allure. Off camera, smoking was her stress relief, especially during her turbulent relationships and career struggles. Though she later tried to quit, the years of heavy smoking contributed to her declining health toward the end of her life. 3. Vivien Leigh. The enchanting Vivien Leigh, best known for her roles in Gone with the Wind and A Streetcar Named Desire, had a delicate beauty that masked inner turmoil. Behind the camera, Leigh battled bipolar disorder, tuberculosis, and a long-term smoking habit. She reportedly smoked up to 4 packs a day, often as a way to calm her nerves. Her husband, Laurence Olivier, tried to help her quit, but the addiction ran deep. Her constant smoking worsened her tuberculosis and contributed to her premature death at age 53. Leigh's story remains one of brilliance, fragility, and tragedy. 4. Katharine Hepburn. We close our list with one of the most respected actresses in film history, Katharine Hepburn. Known for her independence, intelligence, and commanding voice, Hepburn also had one vice she could never completely abandon: smoking. She began smoking during her early-stage career and continued well into her later years. It became part of her confident, nonchalant persona. Though she lived to be 96, Hepburn admitted that smoking had been one of her few lifelong bad habits. She often joked that it helped her think straight, even as doctors warned her of the risks. 5. Bette Davis. When it comes to Golden Age icons, few names shine brighter than Bette Davis. Known for her fierce personality and powerful performances in films like All About Eve and Jezebel, Davis was also famous for her ever-present cigarette. In fact, her signature style often included a cigarette between her fingers, both on and off camera. Davis believed smoking helped her project a certain sophistication and defiance that perfectly matched her screen image. Unfortunately, her decades-long addiction contributed to serious health problems later in life, including breast cancer and a series of strokes. Even in her later years, Bette joked about her habit, saying, "If everyone smoked like me, tobacco companies would never go broke." 6. Joan Crawford. The glamorous and intense Joan Crawford was another Hollywood powerhouse who found herself deeply tied to the culture of smoking. Whether playing the ambitious woman in Mildred Pierce or the manipulative star in Sudden Fear, Crawford often appeared with a cigarette as part of her image. Off-screen, she was a real-life chain smoker, reportedly smoking 2 to 3 packs a day. Studio photographers even encouraged it because it made her look more alluring and mysterious. Sadly, her addiction led to health issues in her later years, and many believe it worsened her frailty toward the end of her career. 7. Lauren Bacall. When you think of Lauren Bacall, you think of her husky voice, smoldering looks, and her unforgettable chemistry with Humphrey Bogart. Ironically, that deep, sultry voice that became her trademark was partly shaped by her smoking habit. From her debut in To Have and Have Not, Bacall was seen lighting up on screen. It became part of her cool, confident persona. She later admitted she started smoking as a teenager, trying to calm her nerves before auditions. Though she eventually quit, the damage to her lungs and voice was permanent. Bacall lived to be 89, but her early decades of smoking left lasting effects on her health. 8. Rita Hayworth, one of the most beautiful women in film history. Rita Hayworth captivated audiences with her performance in Gilda, where she famously seduced the camera and millions of viewers with a cigarette in hand. Behind that glamorous image, however, was a woman dealing with immense stress, personal struggles, and heavy smoking. Rita was known to light up constantly between takes, believing cigarettes helped her deal with the pressures of fame. Like many actresses of her era, she was even encouraged by studios to maintain that smoldering image. Sadly, later in life, she suffered from Alzheimer's disease, and her overall health had been weakened by decades of nicotine use. 9. Marilyn Monroe. Few stars are as universally recognized as Marilyn Monroe. Her beauty, charm, and tragic story have made her an eternal Hollywood legend. While she's often remembered for her laughter and sensuality, Monroe was also a frequent smoker. Photographs and behind-the-scenes accounts show her smoking during breaks and social events. For Monroe, cigarettes were both a form of relaxation and a symbol of rebellion against the strict image the studios imposed on her. Though her cause of death wasn't related to smoking, many of her close friends recalled her struggle with anxiety and how she leaned on cigarettes to cope with the pressure of stardom. 10. Greta Garbo. The mysterious Greta Garbo, often described as the woman who wanted to be alone, had an equally private relationship with smoking. Known for her roles in Camille and Ninotchka, Garbo was one of Hollywood's first truly international stars. She began smoking in her early 20s and continued for most of her life. To her, cigarettes represented calmness and solitude, something that fit her famously reclusive personality. Her image in promotional photos, elegant, distant, and surrounded by cigarette smoke, became a defining aesthetic of early Hollywood glamour. 11. Ava Gardner. One of the most naturally stunning actresses of the 1940s and 1950s, Ava Gardner embodied sensuality and strength. Yet behind the beauty and boldness was a lifelong smoking addiction. Friends and biographers often mentioned that Ava could barely get through an interview, a meal, or even a makeup session without lighting a cigarette. Her smoky voice became one of her trademarks, but it also took a toll on her health. Later in life, Gardner suffered from emphysema, a lung disease caused by years of heavy smoking, and she admitted regret for never being able to quit. 12. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was not just a star, she was the star. Her violet eyes, breathtaking beauty, and acting talent made her one of the most famous women in the world. But she also lived a life filled with stress, fame, and addiction, including smoking. Taylor reportedly started smoking as a teenager and continued for decades, sometimes puffing through several packs a day. By the time she was older, her health began to decline rapidly due to lung problems. Though she eventually quit, the long-term effects remained. Even so, Elizabeth's charisma and resilience made her an enduring Hollywood legend. 13. Judy Garland. The beloved star of The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland, was one of Hollywood's most tragic figures. From a very young age, she was under extreme studio control, and smoking was one of the habits she picked up during that time. MGM reportedly gave her cigarettes to suppress her appetite, keeping her slim for film roles. This early introduction led to a lifelong dependency. Combined with alcohol and prescription drugs, her smoking habit worsened her health dramatically. Judy's story is a haunting example of how Hollywood's pressures pushed even the brightest stars into self-destructive habits. 14. Barbara Stanwyck. A powerhouse of both film and television, Barbara Stanwyck starred in classics like Double Indemnity and Stella Dallas. She was tough, talented, and, like many of her peers, a smoker. Stanwyck often smoked between scenes, and her characters were frequently written as cigarette-smoking femme fatale. It became such a part of her persona that it was hard to imagine her without one. Later in life, she suffered from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, a condition linked directly to smoking. 15. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman, the star of Casablanca, exuded grace and intelligence. But even she wasn't immune to Hollywood's smoking culture. During the 1940s and 1950s, nearly everyone in the film industry smoked, and Bergman was no exception. Her iconic scenes with Humphrey Bogart often involved a shared cigarette, a visual symbol of passion and tension. Off-screen, she smoked socially, and while she eventually reduced her habit, it remained part of her daily life for many years. Her poised demeanor and beauty masked a vulnerability shared by many stars of her generation, the quiet harm of addiction. During Hollywood's golden age, smoking wasn't just a habit, it was a fashion statement. Cigarettes were used to show sophistication, power, rebellion, or sensuality. Studios even encouraged actors and actresses to smoke publicly, believing it would enhance their star image. But as time went on, the truth behind the glamour became painfully clear. Many of these stars, despite their fame and fortune, suffered greatly from the long-term effects of smoking. What was once a symbol of allure turned into a silent destroyer of health. The stories of these 15 Golden Age actresses remind us that even the brightest lights of Hollywood carried their own shadows. Behind the red lips, shining gowns, and glamorous photos were real women, vulnerable, pressured, and sometimes lost in the haze of smoke. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood history, don't forget to subscribe to Hollywood World. Hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and let us know which Golden Age star you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.